one of the things that they've done in the IWG, when they couldn't find anything, or in other reports as well, they would mention other places to look, such as books. Yeah, I mean, you're educated people, that's why you're laughing, but a lot of people don't laugh. They say, okay, that's normal. Why would the National Archives care what Iris Chong has to say? They should be going through, she should be in their archives. It just goes on and on. You can't make this stuff up. As you can see, they mentioned George Hicks as well. And so actually inside the IWG, and I want to say it at least 2 or 3 more times, I hope somebody will translate this to English. It needs to be translated and turned over to the Army of Housewives. Let them analyze it. Let them come to their own conclusions. You'll see. And one thing that you'll see early in the report, it may be page 26, I'm not sure, but they actually mention what they're looking for. They're looking for Nazi war crimes. They're looking for comfort women issues. They're looking for evidence about Nanjing, specifically mention Iris Chong. And they're looking for evidence regarding Unit 731. All again, and every one of these holes where we go fishing, we're not catching fish. That's me saying that. So, but they actually mentioned that. That's very important to always point out that they specifically say they were looking for this, because many people say that they were not. And then the next thing they say was that the documents were not cataloged. They were cataloged. This is a repeat of something I've said, but it's important. The allegations arose that the U.S. government engaged in a cover-up in order to conceal incriminating documents pertaining to war crimes in order not to embarrass the Japanese government. Everybody here knows that the United States government has not made many efforts not to embarrass the Japanese government. And as an American, I apologize. It's pretty amazing. I see it in Thailand too. This is not just Japan. We do it to other countries too. I don't see how we have any friends left. And you can see again, exhaustive searches by several agencies for classified materials conducted independently of outside political interference of any sort followed the guidelines imposed by the IWG. They found no evidence to support such assertions of a cover-up. We know that there were some issues down in Indonesia, right? And those were found in the Dutch survey, which were an anomaly. There's one thing, to have some soldiers commit crimes here and there. That's always going to happen. Every army is going to do that. But it clearly was not systematic. I recently read that the United States had basically raped its way across Iraq and Afghanistan. I spent 4 years in the wars, and I only heard about one rape, and it was real. It actually happened. They do happen, but they weren't as common as a lot of people make out. But when somebody makes the accusation, many people instantly believe it, that the United States is out there raping, which they're not doing. Although we do have actually sexual assault problems within the military, which are pretty serious. Now, I think everybody here knows why the Japanese government set up the Ianfu stations. To reduce problems with the local population. You are dealing with young men here. To reduce venereal diseases and espionage. And rest assured, the first people to get recruited are prostitutes. For instance, we were recruiting Iraqi prostitutes as spies. It's normal. So, I mean, it's actually smart in this context. And as we know, it was not illegal back then. And so that's something that's important to point out always, that the context of the time was different than now. The USA actually ran a similar system in Honolulu on Hotel Street. One of our illustrious commanders, Colonel David Hackworth, actually did similar in Vietnam, which didn't make a lot of people happy, but he did it. And anybody who's been in the military, or at least the U.S. military, knows that if you open a base up, prostitutes come. You practically have to put guards on the base to keep them off the base. So we know that actually some coercion definitely occurred. We know that. I think everybody here knows that. But it wasn't widespread. So, for instance, at least one Korean newspaper did mention the IWG and immediately twisted it as if there's evidence that's been proved. When we know, anybody who's actually read it, that it's quite the opposite. And this is interesting. More recent State Department records released by the IWG, a collection of news clippings and press summaries from the 1980s and 90s. And some of these are discussing compensation claims by groups representing former victims of Japanese enforced prostitution. They're so sloppy and desperate for evidence that they actually cite newspaper clippings. We see what's happening with Asahi. How many people here are suing Asahi? So, I mean, there you go. So let's take clippings from Asahi and use those as evidence. I mean, this is the kind of, they're really reaching low when they do these, mentioning these books that are suspect to begin with, news clippings. This is why I became an independent writer to begin with, because I didn't trust them, and here they go again.